Hey guys, in this video, we're going to do a reaction to a Thomas Sowell video from back in the day. This is about race hustlers or race pimps or grifters. And I'm excited about this one because this is something that I've been called many times. This is what black conservatives get called all the time. And I want to talk about this with Thomas Sowell, or at least react to what he says, because he's brilliant. When we spot these kind of people, we understand what their motives are. It also clears up the air in terms of why things don't get done in any community, not just the black community. When we put these people on a pedestal to look over a group of people and oversee them, where is the incentive for them to actually be successful? So here we go. Let's check it out.
One of the things I discovered in the research for my book I'm currently working on is that leaders of groups that are lagging in countries around the world almost invariably have counterproductive policies for them. And it makes perfect sense, because insofar as members of lagging groups assimilate into the values and achievements of the larger society, they don't need those leaders. I mean, there's no...
So he basically said that there are policies that are there that are basically nonsensical. They don't work, and these leaders are in place, but they're not needed. Here we have a picture of Jesse Jackson, and I had I would say privilege, but it was an interesting time meeting him. I'd say about 10 or 15 years ago. I don't remember exactly what year it was. It was the opening of the Greensboro National Civil Rights Museum downtown at the old Woolworth building on Elm Street in Greensboro, North Carolina. And so I was there as an honored guest to hang with him for the entire day. He was there to commemorate it, because if you don't know the story, on February 1st, 1960, 4 students from North Carolina A&T went downtown and sat at the lunch counter at a Woolworth to be served, and that started a chain reaction of college sit-ins across the country. There have been other movements before, but I believe this was one of the first ones involving college students. And of course, Jesse went to A&T, the same school that I went to, and so he was there to commemorate it. And the point is that when he was there, I got a chance to see him and talk to him personally about certain issues. And at the time, I was the leader of my young Republican group in Greensboro, and I was like, yo, so what's up with this? And I was very conservative then, as I am now, but he was basically saying, you know what, race relations were pretty cool. Whites got along with whites and so forth. He says only a few people, like the Bull Connors and the George Wallaces, those types of people were the ones that gave them the trouble. But most time, it was a civil relationship between the whites and the blacks in the South in particular. And so all this time, I was noticing this, and he was being chill with him, this whole conversation, knowing that I was a Republican, didn't give me any grief whatsoever the whole time we were there. I was with him for maybe 4 hours that day. And when the cameras came on, it was a whole different Jesse Jackson, and I got a chance to see that firsthand. So this is what Thomas Sowell is saying, and it's absolutely true. I saw it firsthand.
There's no mystery to me as to why Jesse Jackson says what he does, or Al Sharpton and others, because that benefits them, but it does not benefit the people they lead. And all the incentives are for leaders to lead people into things that don't help the people, but help the leaders.
Exactly. What is the incentive for Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton or Maxine Waters or any of these people, these race hustlers? What gives them the incentive to actually be successful at their jobs? Absolutely nothing. We did a video a couple days ago about the Congressional Black Caucus, or we mentioned them about basically how they didn't stand when President Trump told them that black unemployment was at the all-time low. And they were just sitting on their hands because he was saying it. I guarantee if Joe Biden had said that, it would have been no big deal. But because they're Democrats, they have to step and fetch it with the Democrats. And you see with Joe Biden calling LL Cool J a boy.
That man's got biceps bigger than my thighs. I think he's...
And having the liberals, the left, defend him.
We'll get back to that in a second. A lot of people are upset that Joe Biden referred to LL Cool J as a boy. As you can hear, he corrected himself on the spot. You know why Joe Biden corrected himself? Because he's 137 years old.
Just speaks to that in volumes.
You'd create there would be an exception for Dr. King, though, wouldn't there?
Yes,
but he was different because he was earliest, or what? Why? What's different about it?
Well, it's like insurgent movements in general. When an insurgent...
He called this an insurgent movement. I think that's really interesting.
Starts off by definition, it has an uphill battle. Now, and you can look at the history of Christianity, for heaven's sake. If you're going to be a Christian in the Roman Empire, you know, before in the first century, you had a lot of grief to go through. Now, but after Christianity becomes the official religion of the Roman Empire, this is a bonanza. And there's a lot to be done. And so now you will follow policies that are the opposite of what you advocated. You will see that with all kinds of other insurgent movements.
And that's the clip. It's short, but it's very, very powerful. All he was saying was essentially, look, you know, number one, there's no incentive for these race pimps or hustlers to be successful at the jobs because it's a power deal, right? And he said, this isn't just about blacks here in America, it's all over the place. He likened it to the rise of Christianity, whereas in the beginning, it was what he called an insurgent movement, which was essentially, it was wreaking havoc on the Roman Empire, and it was just taking the establishment with the Jews in that area and everywhere else by storm because they didn't know what to do with this faith. But he said once it became established and became big, all of a sudden those policies flipped on its head and it became, I'm saying this, he didn't say this, corrupt. And I'm only talking about not the religion itself, but I'm talking about the people who oversaw the church. Those people, the people. The church, the true church has always been pristine and always been God-led. But when people take over and inject their sinfulness into that, all of a sudden you have chaos. And similarly, here you have the civil rights movement, which, you know, we can argue about that whole thing, but it started with good intentions and yet people who were trying to do the right thing. But once there are people in place creating a bureaucracy to keep people, I guess not say suppressed at first, but to keep them, you know, keep them informed and keep them comforted and whatever, they become the leaders and then they get appointed to other positions once, you know, the crisis happens. All of a sudden now they're in leadership, but now what's their job now if everything's cool? They should be out of a position. It's sort of like term limits. These people like Al and Jesse, these guys, race pimps, hustlers, all should have what they call term limits in terms of their usefulness. If, you know, because obviously when you see a situation when something happens in the street, you have to look at it at a racial mindset. Otherwise, why do you need a Al Sharpton to come there? You don't. And so that's the whole point here. And it's a big con. And that's exactly what Charleston White said. And many people are observing now. And it's really, really a shame that when we see this, we can just call it out for what it is immediately. But yet the left and the media never talks anything negatively about it because that's just not politically correct.